Hello, everyone. My name is Dennis Motwanga, and I'm going to do this argumentative audio essay on my topic, which I chose to talk about. That is gender-based violence, because it's been so common in these days. So I decided to talk about gender-based violence because I believe in equality. So we start by defining what's gender-based violence, and we find that gender-based violence is the violence directed to an individual on the basis of their biological sex, gender identity, gender expression, or failure to adhere to socially defined norms of masculinity or femininity. So this is the one that is directed to an individual on the basis of their biological sex, like maybe male or female. So, on the sources of the scholarly peer-reviewed sources that we were supposed to look at, I looked at six of them, and the first one that I'm supposed to talk about is the health effects associated with physical, sexual, and psychological gender-based violence against men and women. So, according to the article, of course, gender-based violence is subdivided into three. That's physical GBV, sexual GBV, and psychological GBV. Talking about physical GBV, it's an intentional bodily harm inflicted to gender, and this is mostly seen with men, and it's very rare uh, in women. Sexual gender-based violence involves a non-consensual sexual act, attempt, or pressure that is inflicted through coercion, intimidation, or force. And they always they want like rape and wanted sexual touch, exploitation, you know, and all that. And they have caused a widespread of sexually transmitted disease currently, like the HIV and AIDS. Talking about the psychological gender-based violence, of which involves emotional harm through threats, humiliation, intimidation. This one usually comes when one has been maybe raped. That is also sexual gender-based violence. Uh, maybe after that rape, then one becomes uh, uh, intimidated, maybe she or he can't control the emotions directly. It damages the self-esteem, causes fear, and leads to long-term mental health problems such as anxiety, trauma, depression, and all that. And the source of the article is down here. So we go to the next one, which is the article number two that is titled "Women Experiences of Gender-Based Violence Supports Through an Intersectional Lens." Of course, a global scoping review. The article it's so open, and it's talking about the intersectionality, which is central, not based on race, class, sexuality, disability, migration, and all that. The GBV services are often fragmented and hard to access. You know, maybe there are people who can get touch of the GBV services, and supposedly those people live in rural areas, maybe far away from the modern world. You see, like marginalized women face extra barriers in health, legal, and social support. Talking about the people who live far away from the open world, they find it hard. They can't get the social support they need after maybe they have been violated, maybe sexually, physically, or even psychologically. So the global review shows these issues are widespread and not limited to a region. And it also emphasizes on inclusivity and equity. The research calls for global reforms, create comprehensive and culturally responsible intervention for women worldwide. And then there is, of course, the citation down there. So we go to the next article that's titled "A Scoping Review on the Nature and Impact of Gender-Based Violence in Women Primary Producers." This is talking about the woman the woman in the working space. The article explores the gender-based violence affecting women working in agricultural and rural production. It highlights the GBV not only undermines women's physical and mental health, but also restricts their economic participation and productivity. It also points out that the GBV perpetuates cycles of poverty and reduces community resilience, stressing the need to targeted interventions and policy reforms to protect women in those primary production sectors. And of course, there is the citation down there, and we go to the next article that is titled "Risk and Protective Factors for Gender-Based Violence Among Women and Girls Living in Humanitarian Settings." This article outlines a systematic review protocol designed to examine risk and protective factors linked to gender-based violence among women and girls in humanitarian setting. The type of humanitarian settings like the camp for refugees and you know maybe the orphanages and those homes for maybe the women who have lost their husbands. So it highlights the need for evidence-based insights to guide interventions in conflict and crisis contexts, where the GBV risk increase due to instability, displacement, or weakened social support system. Overall, this article emphasizes on filling a critical research gap by systematically emphasizing existing evidence of vulnerabilities and resilience factors shaping the gender-based violence outcomes in humanitarian environment. And down there is the citation of the whole source. So we go to the next one, that is the International Journal on Behavioral Nutrition and Physical Activity. This one, it presents a systematic review examining how moderate to vigorous physical activity impacts the mental health and overall well-being of women who have experienced sexual gender-based violence. It evaluates studies assessing exercise-based intervention and conclude that structured physical activity can help reduce depression, anxiety, trauma symptoms, stress, offering a non-pharmacological pathway to healing. It also reviews the review also highlights the need for more rigorous large-scale trials, but emphasizes the promising role of physical activity as supportive recovery strategy for gender-based violence survivors. And down there is the review for all the same. Talking about the last the last the last source, there is a systematic review of literature, of course, gender-based violence in the construction and natural resources industry. The systematic review examines the literature and prevalence and impact the workplace GBV in the construction and natural resources. It highlights the negative impact of GBV on mental health and well-being in these groups, as well as lack of intervention studies and literature. The imperative to create safer, more equitable work environment remains a shared responsibility for employees, peacemakers, and industry stakeholders. The review highlights the negative, of course, and yeah, the negative impact of gender-based violence and the well-being of all the women who work in the construction and natural resource industry. And the citation is down there. Uh, the next thing we're going to talk about is the summary on the six sources that we've looked at. The sources collectively explore gender-based violence across multiple environments, as we have had talked about the primary producers and the industries and all that. So, emphasizing its widespread impact on health, safety, and well-being. They examine how physical, sexual, and psychological abuse can cause a long-term mental, emotional, and reproductive harm. As we saw in the first article that was talking about what can the psychological GBV can cause, maybe the trauma, and all that. They also highlight heightened vulnerability in workplaces, universities, and humanitarian settings where power imbalances, insecurity, and weak reporting systems increase risk. When you find out that maybe in a humanitarian setting, one cannot report an incident of assault, maybe GBV, of maybe psychological, sexual, or physical, because of the system of reporting. Maybe you can be a victim of gender-based violence, but you fear to report it because maybe someone will listen to you or talk to you and then judge you. It becomes a problem. So several studies focus on children affected by violence, while others assess interventions that support survivors, including physical activity programs and mental health. So overall, resources show the agreement needed for prevention, protection, and stronger support structures to address gender-based violence globally. So to the last slide, we're going to talk about the gap to be addressed. The gap to be addressed here, we're going to look on what has been a mess in the whole system. I've been talking about the gender-based violence. What should be done so that we don't have, we can limit the violence that is inflicted to victims. So the core issues lies on the critical failure of existing gender-based violence reporting mechanisms to adapt to the digital age and ensure victim security. I talked about the victim security where you find out that someone fears to report something, yeah, because he might be a victim again. So the limited use of technology, maybe the apps and secure online portals, prevent quick, discreet, and reliable incident logging, which is crucial for capturing evidence immediately. This technological shortfall, combined with accurate or public reporting methods that has filling in forms, papers, and open interviews, fuels fear of embarrassment, retaliation, and re-victimization. This results to a massive dark figure of unreported GBV cases, making intervention and prevention efforts ineffective due to incomplete data. So I'm going to pose my research question. How effectively can the implementation of a secure, anonymous, and user-friendly mobile application or a digital platform enhance reporting of the gender-based violence and improve the timely, appropriate response by supporting services within? So this is my, and by that you're supposed to, maybe we talk about specific areas where the services are, maybe the rural area, the humanitarian centers, or any geographical area or community where that belongs to. That is the end of my presentation today, and Hope you had it well. My name is Dennis Motwanga. Thank you.